if you've gone out and you bought gold and silver and you're thinking, well, I'm prepared, wake up. You need to prepare your entire life because our entire world is going to change.
Hey friends, thanks for pushing play and welcome back. And back by popular demand is the one, the only Bill Holter from JS Mindset, jsmindset.com. And as you guys know, Bill and I recorded a call the other day. We're 25 minutes into a gripping call documenting the collapse and my machine crashed. The file was corrupt, so we're rebooting today. Bill's back. Bill, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Sean.
Well, Bill, guess what's happened since we talked? And I guess it's good that we're re-recording because on Wednesday, as you well know, the cartel was back at it again. Gold futures saw a massive $1.5 billion liquidation in 1 minute. And as I noted at SGT Report, not even the SGE can save us from manipulation this blatant. What'd you make of that hit?
Well, $1.5 billion worth of gold, that's close to 2% of global production. And to see that sold in 1 minute it's laughable. I mean, I've said this every time that they come out with these big paper dumps. Who has that amount of gold to sell? And the answer, of course, is almost no one. And what entity or what trader would ever sell in that fashion? And the answer is no one who wanted to keep a job if they were trying to sell for profit. So, I mean, the sale was obviously done to create price, a lower one.
Yeah, Silver Doctors is noting the same thing. Gold futures saw a massive $1.5 billion liquidation in 1 minute on Wednesday, which had all the hallmarks of a non-profit liquidation, a large seller trying to manipulate gold futures lower rather than maximize profits. You know, we thought this playbook was dead, and I guess we're naive to have thought so. As Bix Weir and so many others have said, they can set the price pretty much anywhere they want when they control the paper markets. And we keep thinking, at least I do, Bill, that this paper manipulation paradigm is quickly coming to an end because of the SGE and because of the loss of credibility at the LBMA and the COMEX. But here they're at it again. I mean, when does this end, for God's sakes?
Well, Sean, I would dispute that they could set the price anywhere they wanted to, because if they could, gold would still be $256 an ounce and would never have budged off of that.
Yeah, good point.
I mean, the moves in the paper market are basically done to destroy sentiment. That's what this was all about. I mean, the amount of emails I got in the last 24 hours, like suicidal emails. And like you're saying, well, the SGE can't stop the paper market. It's the bottom line is when the physical market is going to call on the paper market, and when that happens, there is no paper market. There will not be a COMEX. You're going to see the day where the price of gold skyrockets and the price of COMEX contracts plummets, because those are contracts with no gold behind them. If there's no gold or silver behind them, there's no value to them. And keep in mind, today is I think it's silver option expiration day. So they needed to hit silver to get it down below $19 because there was a lot of call activity above $19.
Okay, yeah, well, they've slammed silver and gold, and you know what else they've slammed the heck out of is the mining shares. Of course, nobody expected the gold and silver mining stocks to climb 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 800, in some cases 1,000% this year. But that's exactly what they did. And now just recently, in the past week and a half or two, we've seen these things correct by a good, in some cases, 30% or more. A healthy correction in what is undoubtedly a bull market that I think will resume the bull run here in 2016. Your take on this mining stocks correction and slam down we've been seeing?
Well, we've been due for a correction for a while. You can't have a market go straight up, and literally we went straight up since December, January, with no correction whatsoever, and there was never a trend line violation. So it was time the trend line was broken. You did have some technical traders jumping out. What I think you're going to see, though, is they will snap back extremely hard once you start to see silver and gold turn higher again. It's been my thesis all along that the miners have been, so far this year, the miners have been used as a hedge for the paper shorts uh, that have sold gold and silver short. In other words, there's more leverage in the miners, so you can buy less of a mining operation versus your short in silver or gold. So it was a way to hedge or cover shorts, and I think that had a lot to do with the strength in the mining shares so far this year.
Yeah. You know what's interesting? Right now, Apple's market cap is still larger than the total market cap of all the major gold mining companies out there. And, you know, when you and I and the listeners talk about the fact that physical precious metals, physical gold and physical silver, in a case of hyperinflation, will be infinitely valuable. It's hard to really put a price on what these mining companies are worth. Certainly, all of the gold miners on planet Earth, Bill, are worth more than Apple Computer, wouldn't you think?
Yes, and the same could be said for 4, 5, 6 other companies, Exxon, Amazon. I mean, their market caps are higher than the entire mining industries. I'd like to check and see how far down the list it goes. It wouldn't surprise me if even the top 15 market caps, number 15 was bigger than the mining industry.
Yeah, well, Amazon, what a joke. Dave Kranzler has called out Amazon for so long, it's ridiculous. I mean, Amazon is really the poster boy for how manipulatedly, unbelievably, unrealistically insane these markets are. I guess nothing more needs to be said about that. We know that the Dow Jones propaganda average is endlessly manipulated by the PPT and the powers that be. We do wonder, though, at what point this whole thing ends.
Hey, Sean, I do want to mention one other thing about the miners.
Yeah.
You're mentioning the infinite value at some point of gold and silver. I think you keep that in mind if you're looking to purchase mining companies. You look at reserves. I believe that reserves in the ground are going to be at some point the number one value maker for mining companies. Mm-hmm. Not so much how much they're producing, not so much what their cost of production is, et cetera, et cetera. I think it's going to be gold and silver in the ground, and that's going to be revalued, and you're going to see some of these exploration plays that do have proven reserves. I think you're going to see their market caps truly explode.
Well, let's just flush that out a little bit. You and I had not planned on talking about mining stocks at all today. I've got other things I want to talk to you about. But since we're on this topic, you know, I talked to Michael Oliver from Oliver MSA recently and David Jensen from safehaven.com. I have a soundbite actually I want to play for you in a second from David specifically. But David said in an interview he thinks that the mining stocks may provide a ballast for when the rest of the paper markets implode, right? So, for instance, we see the bond market getting toppy, which is actually the soundbite I want to play for you. The bond market is overextended. It's clearly a bubble. And when that bubble pops, that money is going to be desperate to go somewhere. And since so many fund managers, Bill, are disallowed from buying physical gold, you know, where's that money going to go? I think it's going to go into the mining stocks. So is it your position that the mining stocks is a rational place for some of your money, even though they're paper?
That's been my thesis since at least call it 1997.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the mining industry is going to be deluged with capital, and 1980, what happened in the late 70s and 80, 81 in the mining industry is going to be dwarfed.
All right, so this bull market is far from over in the mining stocks. I think you and I both agree on that. All right, well, let me ask you this then. You know, as you and I recounted in our interview the other day, which imploded and went into the ether because my computer crashed, it's gone. Foreign demand for U.S. Treasuries has disappeared, according to Zero Hedge. And here's another. Fed admits $4 trillion will be needed to offset another economic shock. And you know it's coming. They know it's coming, Bill. That's why the Fed would say that. And they're prepping the public to accept $4 trillion more in QE. But I think you and I both know that that's nowhere near enough, is it?
No, it's not. And if you read through that article carefully, they're talking about $4 trillion needed for just a garden variety recession.
Right.
And what we have coming is the end to the system. It's not. This is going to be the largest uh, depression, financial economic depression the world has ever seen. $4 trillion is a joke.
Yeah, and actually that segues nicely into this piece from Graham Summers from Phoenix Capital Research. This was also posted at Zero Hedge. Central banks are terrified, but of what? And he writes, we firmly believe the markets are preparing to enter another crisis. The Fed obviously believes that too. With over 30% of global bonds posting negative yields, the financial system is a powder keg ready to blow. That's the perfect segue into this soundbite for you, Bill, that I want to play from David Jensen, who said this.
What we're seeing now is that the $28 trillion of global debt, which references the LIBOR rate, that debt market is experiencing a tightening, and now a strong tightening. So when you have credit tightening in a credit bubble, you have the recipe for the bubble collapse, and that's what we're heading into now. And I think that what Michael is seeing there is for the support of that, is that now we're seeing it move into the government debt markets, which these are tier one measures of debt, and even they now are showing signs of an incipient increase. So it has real meaning for people globally.
Bill, I just wanted to play that for you because it was a aha moment for me when David said that, because it made me realize that the market ultimately will cause these interest rates to go higher regardless of what the Fed does or wants. And when those interest rates go higher, this whole house of cards comes down.
Right, across the board. Let me tell you what the central banks are afraid of. 2007, 2008 was a solvency crisis. It was treated with liquidity. Now here we are 7, 8 years later. They've pumped all this liquidity into the system, and the central banks, they know for a fact it has not worked. They know what they're doing behind the scenes. They also know that the next round is going to require multiples of what they had to do in 2008, and they know they can't do it. They know that the system is bigger than they are. Deutsche Bank on their own, I mean, they've got their counterparty to $75 trillion worth of derivatives. Deutsche Bank alone can't be saved. So that's what the central bankers are afraid of.
Right. You know what? When we talk about the great collapse, and again, we're documenting the collapse. I like to say it. You and I think, coined that, or you and I and Andy Hoffman coined that phrase. We document the collapse because this stuff is tangible, it's quantifiable, and it's really happening. Most of the sheeple people, Bill, don't understand this information. They might understand that the economy is far worse than the Fed would lead them to believe and CNBC would lead them to believe, but most people can't articulate what the Federal Reserve is or who owns it. So as we talk about the collapse, and as we look at the Rothschild-owned Economist magazine predict a 2018 world currency, what do you think that world currency looks like right now? Is it an SDR? Is it a basket of currencies backed by gold? We know China wants to play a big role in whatever's coming next, and they will. What does this thing look like, number one? And number two, what happens to those sheeple people out there that refuse to listen to this information and face it head on?
Well, the easy part first, the population gets wiped out because you are going to see many of these various currencies go away. Or if not go away, they'll be devalued and rolled into one of the 3, 4, 5 world currencies at a lower rate. So people are going to lose their savings. The tougher one is, are we going to have a one world currency? I don't think so. I think we're probably going to have block currencies, maybe 4 or 5 block currencies. Will the SDR be one? It looks like they're definitely trying to do that. I believe you'll see an Asian currency. I do think that the ruble on its own will survive. I don't think that Russia will join in any direction. I think they will go on their own. I think you'll see a North American currency. And the big question in my mind is, I don't see how the euro, the way it's structured, can continue. So does that get replaced by maybe block currencies in Europe? That's not really clear in my mind how that's going to go. Whether it might break into two. You might have a northern currency and a southern currency. the stronger economies and the weaker economies.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to say.
Mm-hmm.
But as to one world currency, I I I don't think that's going to happen.
Right. You know what? It reminds me of Lindsey Williams, this conversation does. There's a guy out there on YouTube, jsnip4. We post some of his videos at SGT Report and at thephaser.com. And, you know, he talks about Lindsey Williams a lot. Apparently, Lindsey Williams has just come out with another DVD update. And I'm curious to see what Lindsey says, because Lindsey said years ago that they would let the stock market run up to unimaginable heights, and that's what we've seen. And then he said, when the euro collapses, get the hell out, because the dollar collapse will just be a couple of weeks away after that. And, you know, you've just described the euro collapse. I agree with you. I don't know how much longer they can stitch together the euro, but if that thing falls, it's Katie bar the doors, I think, for the dollar, too.
Well, Sean, just before the last part we were talking about, I mentioned Deutsche Bank. And I guess out yesterday was the CEO of Deutsche Bank repeating a plea that he made back in February, that the world begin to normalize interest rates, because banks cannot earn an interest rate spread with 0% or negative rates. So it's like Deutsche Bank crying uncle, saying, you know, we can't do it any longer. It was a cry for help, the way I read it.
Yeah.
Or a panic call, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Deutsche Bank, if all of a sudden you start to see problems, liquidity problems, whatever, with Deutsche Bank, that's going to directly affect the euro. And then you're going to start to see volatility spread everywhere.
Well, this stuff is really getting hard to keep track of, isn't it? You know, it's like Hillary Clinton's litany of crimes. We talked about this the other day, you and I did, Bill, and then we lost the file. But there is no justice in this system. In the economic system on Wall Street, all we see is endless crimes. Nobody ever gets tried for those crimes. Nobody of any means or accountability goes to prison for those crimes. And it's just like the people at the head of the government and Hillary Clinton. There is just no justice left in this system at all. And thank goodness for WikiLeaks and Julian Assange, who's warning the Clinton campaign more unexpected game-changing emails loom. And as I did in a video vlog that I posted on Wednesday in lieu of our interview, Bill, thank God for that, because that woman, Hillary Rotten Clinton, deserves to be in prison for her crimes, not in the White House.
Well, I'm going to make a prediction. Hillary is either going to end up president of the United States or in jail. It'll be one or the other, because if Trump does win, I believe she will go to jail. You're absolutely right. There is no rule of law. There's no rule of law in markets. Markets are completely locked down. The Bank of Japan has basically nationalized the Japanese stock market. You have central banks. You've got the Bank of Japan, the Swiss National Bank, I think the Norwegian National Bank. They're all major buyers of stocks all around the world. How's that possible? A central bank using as assets equities. It makes zero sense whatsoever. We live in a completely upside down world where anything goes, and there's no accountability. There's zero rule of law.
Yeah, I was listening to a very good interview the other day with Jason Burek from Wall Street, from Main Street, who interviewed, you know that guy, Small Gold? I think his name is Lewis. And Lewis was saying to Jason, it's absolutely unbelievable what the Federal Reserve has been able to get away with QE1, QE2, QE3. If they had come out in 2008, 2009 and said, this is what we're going to do, we're going to print trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions, the dollar index would have crashed overnight. But instead they came out and said this is a temporary stopgap, and we're going to tighten, and we're going to raise rates, and we're going to undo all of this funny money. Don't worry, just trust us. And they never have. They've tightened once, and that was a joke. And they can't tighten anymore. And now the bond market is going to make them tighten. The bond market is going to send interest rates higher, and these guys will not have undone any of their magic money printing, and the system is coming down. The market's going to make the system come down, or the Rothschilds will.
Well, my comment to that is they did not let a good crisis go to waste.
Right.
They used the 2007, 2008 crisis, let it get, let it get to the point where they were forced to do something, and then people realized if they didn't print trillions, the whole system was going to come down.
Right. Let me ask you this. We both know and love Andy Hoffman. He's a great guy, and we post his commentaries every day, but I just want to get your opinion on this, Bill, because Andy always says that these guys are just knuckleheads. The people at the Federal Reserve are just idiots. They don't know what they're doing. It'd be too complicated for such a conspiracy to unfold in this manner. They're just stupid. And I've always made the argument that this was all done by design. Again, look at the 1988 cover of The Economist magazine. Get ready for a world currency in 30 years. Here we are, 15 months away from their new world order currency, if they can get it. And I think it's all been done by design. What's your thoughts?
Well, they're not stupid. You're not dealing with stupid people.
Right.
In my opinion, you're looking at globalism, and globalism is all about control. So how do you control people? You make them dependent on whatever the government entity happens to be.
Right.
And how do you make them dependent? You take their savings away from them.
Yep. You destroy their currency by
Right,
design.
And I wrote this back in 2007, 2008. The policy that has been put into place time after time after time in the U.S., nobody could be that stupid. Mm-hmm. So if nobody could be that stupid, it's by design.
You and I absolutely agree on that. And the Zionist entity, this central banking entity, this Rothschild octopus entity is, we saw we've seen what they did to Greece. That was by design. Goldman Sachs colluding with government officials in Greece by design to enslave Greece to unrepayable debt. It's all by design, and it can't be denied. And the point that I've been trying to make, screaming from the rooftops, Bill, is that the Rothschild entity is an evil entity that is hell-bent on destroying our nation. And who did they just hold fundraisers for twice in the past few months? Hillary Rotten Clinton. So she's literally a Rothschild puppet. And you just mentioned the word globalism. Let me play this bite from Donald Trump, who stands in stark contrast to Rothschild globalism.
We're going to reject globalism and put America first. America first. And it's going to be America first from now on. We're going to put our country first. We're going to put our American workers first. We're going to put our people first.
So your thoughts, Bill, the Rothschilds in globalism or Donald Trump?
Back in, I think it was October, November, when it looked like Trump was beginning to take control on the Republican side, I made the comment that if he got close, they'd probably kill him. So I guess I need to amend my previous, where I said she's either going to be president or go to jail. If he gets shot or assassinated, and that would not surprise me one bit. At this point, and we're 75 days or so from the election, I believe that it's better than a coin flip chance that there is not an election.
Yeah. Well, that would be a coup.
Well, it would be a coup, and we just saw the plan of succession for Treasury, IRS, and I forget the other agency. But why the executive order
right.
for the succession plans? If there's going to be a new administration, if there's going to be an election in 75 days and a new administration in 3 or 4 months, why would they do that?
Right. Rob Kirby, I think, commented on that in an interview with Finance and Liberty, and Rob's right, and I think it's a great question. Why is Obama? But again, why has Obama signed so many other unconstitutional executive orders? I think he's given himself license to take over all farms in the nation, and he can take over all water supplies. He can take over, the entire country in the event of a economic emergency or otherwise. So I think they're going to lock down this entire country one way or the other, and the last person they want sitting in the White House is somebody who will enforce the rule of law, somebody like Donald Trump, who says he will enforce the rule of law. Because if he gets in the White House, Clinton goes to prison.
Hey, Sean, the Cocoa Puffs in your cupboard are not yours under the executive law that he wrote. I mean, if you're a prepper, if you've prepped supplies, those supplies can be taken away.
All right. Well, let me just say this now. This Mockingbird mainstream media who continues to look over and beyond Clinton crimes, really avoiding them at all costs, continuing to malign Donald Trump on a daily basis for little nuances of speech or flub-ups that he's made, completely ignoring her relationship to the Rothschilds. They continue to tell us that she's leading in the polls. Bill, did you see this about a week and a half ago? There was an ABC Go poll. And ABC, as you guys know, is a Mockingbird media network owned by the Disney Corporation, home of CFR member Brian Williams, or at least formerly. Now he's over at MSNBC because he got caught for lying on air. And they did a poll, Bill. And what type of people do you think get their news from ABC? It's not the awake folks like us, right? It's the sheeple people. And the results of that poll were 70% for Donald Trump, 9% for Hillary Clinton, and she finished behind Jill Stein and Gary Johnson. That's how little support this woman has in the real world.
All you need to do is just look at the rallies. Hillary can't draw any crowd, and there's not enough space. They're all standing room only, and people shut out. They can't get in.
Right.
So I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that a fair election, it would be 60-40, 65-35, whatever. How they're going to try to steal the election, I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure they're going to try to steal the election.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be hard for them to steal the election if we can get poll observers and exit poll data, but I think you're right. They'll try to steal it electronically, one way or the other.
Can you imagine, I think there was, I forget the number, it was a very high number of foreign nations want to bring people to the U.S. to observe the polls. Can you imagine that? I mean, I'm a child that grew up in the 60s and early 70s, and it was always the U.S. that was sending poll observers all over the world to make sure there were fair elections.
Right. At least that's what we were told.
That's true.
Probably they're sending CIA poll observers around the world to fix the polls is more likely.
Yeah, fix the elections. There you go.
Yeah, well, you know what? It is strange times in which we live, and it's Putin himself now trying to shake the mainstream media awake in this country and around the world, saying, I don't know how to get through to you people. You have to tell your citizenry the truth about what NATO's doing and about what the United States government is doing, because we are headed down an irreversible path towards World War III. And again, if people want to see World War III, if they want to see more of the same, unconstitutional wars, Wall Street out of control, more for the banks, less for humanity, then put Hillary Clinton in the White House. Final word from you, Bill.
Well, let me say this. I wrote a piece today, and I finished it by writing about how there's so many people that know something's wrong. They read the alt media. They watch your interviews, the alt media interviews, but yet they don't do anything. And here's a perfect example. I went to see my sister 4 years ago and talked to them about getting some type of weapons to protect themselves with. And they agreed with it. They went and got their firearms licenses, took lessons. They never bought a gun. So I went back up there a month, 2 months ago, and I brought them into Bass Pro Shops. My point here is no one is going to protect you other than you. No one's going to protect your family other than you. You got to prepare, you got to act. You've got to act now, because the time is very short at this point. This thing's going to come to a flashpoint, certainly by election day or the day after election day. It's going to be a flashpoint. So, you know, if you've gone out and you bought gold and silver and you're thinking, well, I'm prepared, wake up. You need to prepare your entire life, because our entire world is going to change.
Powerfully said, Bill. And I would just leave folks with this, too. A quote from Thomas Jefferson in 1795. It is to secure our rights that we resort to government at all. And what we have right now is a government that has really turned against the people, a government that does not enforce the rule of law, in a government that is hell-bent on destroying the Bill of Rights and the Constitution, and it will be our last chance to rebuild this republic is to prevent Hillary Clinton from getting in the White House. In lieu of that or otherwise, Bill's absolutely right, guys. Prep. Get ready. And try to enlighten those that you can. Bill, thanks so much for your time, and remind people how they can get your daily missives.
You can go to jsmindset.com. I usually write 1 or 2 public articles per month, and I generally do 2, sometimes 3 articles for our subscribers each week. And Jim Sinclair and I do a cross interview each week. Generally, we do them on a Friday afternoon or a Saturday. We try to post them Sunday or Monday. So you get an interview, and I've said this many times, just listening to Jim talk once a week is worth the price of admission. And I did mention to you before, Sean, we're going to want you shortly in the next month or two to interview the 2 of us, do it on the JS Mindset site. We'll have it for subscribers for a couple, 3 days, and then we'll turn it over to you publicly.
Okay, yeah, I'd appreciate that. I'd really like to do that as well, Bill. So thanks for that opportunity, and thanks so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Sean.
Guys, that's Bill Holter from jsmindset.com. Thanks so much for listening. And if you like this information, please do hit the like button. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please, by all means, do. It means a lot to me. And the last word is thanks for checking us out each day at sgtreport.com. Real news, 24/7, the antidote to corporate propaganda. Thanks so much, guys. Have a wonderful weekend. God bless.
Well, $1.5 billion worth of gold, that's close to 2% of global production. And to see that sold in 1 minute it's laughable. I mean, I've said this every time that they come out with these big paper dumps. Who has that amount of gold to sell? And the answer, of course, is almost no one. And what entity or what trader would ever sell in that fashion? And the answer is no one who wanted to keep a job if they were trying to sell for profit. So, I mean, the sale was obviously done to create price, a lower one.
Yeah, Silver Doctors is noting the same thing. Gold futures saw a massive $1.5 billion liquidation in 1 minute on Wednesday, which had all the hallmarks of a non-profit liquidation, a large seller trying to manipulate gold futures lower rather than maximize profits. You know, we thought this playbook was dead, and I guess we're naive to have thought so, as Bix Weir and so many others have.
Paper market. There will not be a COMEX. You're going to see the day where the price of gold skyrockets and the price of COMEX contracts plummets, because those are contracts with no gold behind them. If there's no gold or silver behind them, it's there's no value to them. And keep in mind, today is the I think it's silver option expiration day. So they needed to hit silver to get it down below $19 because there was a lot of call activity above $19.
Okay, yeah, well, they've slammed silver and gold, and you know what else they've slammed the heck out of is the mining shares. Of course, nobody expected the gold and silver mining stocks to climb 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 800, in some cases 1,000% this year, but that's exactly what they did. And now just recently, in the past week and a half or 2, we've seen these things correct by a good, in some cases 30% or more. A healthy correction in what is undoubtedly a bull market that I think will resume the bull run here in 2000. Said they can set the price pretty much anywhere they want when they control the paper markets, and we keep thinking, at least I do, Bill, that this paper manipulation paradigm is quickly coming to an end because of the SGE and because of the loss of credibility at the LBMA and the COMEX. But here they're at it again. I mean, when does this end, for God's sakes?
Well, Sean, I would dispute that they could set the price anywhere they wanted to, because if they could, gold would still be $256 an ounce and would never have budged off of that.
Yeah, good point.
I mean, the moves in the paper market are basically done to destroy sentiment. That's what this was all about. I mean, the amount of emails I got in the last 24 hours, like suicidal emails. And like you're saying, well, you know, the SGE can't stop the paper market. the bottom line is when the physical market is going to call on the paper market, and when that happens, there is no.
2016. Your take on this mining stocks correction and slam down we've been seeing?
Well, we've been due for a correction for a while. You can't have a market go straight up, and literally we went straight up since December, January, with no correction whatsoever, and there was never a trend line violation. So it was time the trend line was broken. You did have some technical traders jumping out. What I think you're going to see, though, is they will snap back extremely hard once you start to see silver and gold turn higher again. It's been my thesis all along that the miners have been, so far this year, the miners have been used as a hedge for the paper shorts that have sold gold and silver short. In other words, there's more leverage in the miners, so you can buy. If you've gone out and you bought gold and silver and you're thinking, well, I'm prepared, wake up. You need to prepare your entire life because our entire world is going to change.
Hey friends, thanks for pushing play and welcome back. And back by popular demand is the one, the only Bill Holter from JS Mindset, jsmindset.com. And as you guys know, Bill and I recorded a call the other day. We're 25 minutes into a gripping call documenting the collapse and my machine crashed. The file was corrupt. So we're rebooting today. Bill's back. Bill, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Sean.
Well, Bill, guess what's happened since we talked? And I guess it's good that we're re-recording because on Wednesday, as you well know, the cartel was back at it again. Gold futures saw a massive $1.5 billion liquidation in 1 minute. And as I noted at SGT Report, not even the SGE can save us from manipulation this blatant. What'd you make of that hit?